Hi, this is Elaine Sebastian coming to you with my Microsoft Excel training videos. Today we are going to be finishing off the Home tab. So this is Home tab part 3. I am going to be starting with a fresh copy of the Lemonade Stand Edit 1, so just a fresh copy of it. And we'll be starting over here, Home tab, and we left off here with styles. So if you want to see anything from styles, number, alignment, font, clipboard, go watch the part 1 or part 2 videos. But today we're going to pick up with cells. So let's look at our final product sheet, and here we have our incomplete product or incomplete sheet. So there's some slight differences still between the two that we might want to make. For instance, here we have Bob and Rob. And they work the same number of hours. Maybe they're twins or something like that. But they're not both on the sheet, on the incomplete sheet. So maybe we want to add a row for him. And then also we have this cool spark chart here in column J. So that's in between Sunday and then the total columns. And you'll notice we don't have that here. So we need to go back and add these things. Well, luckily these things are both very easy to do. So I want to really create a new row 13. Instead of where Michael is, I want Rob to be there instead. And so everyone needs to get pushed down a row. I don't want to get rid of Michael, but just rather push all these 4 people down. So let's click on row 13, or you can even just click on a cell within the row. And you're going to go to cells and you go to insert. And you can say insert sheet rows. And what do you notice about the new row that appears? Well, it kept the formatting of the previous row. Now, can you change this? Of course you can. This little button right here, it resembles the format painter. You click on it and it only pops up right after you've added a new row, new column, or new cell. And you'll see it allows you to change this option. You can instead format as row 14 instead. Or you could just say, hey, let's clear all formatting. But I like the first one, since these two guys are probably twins. Their names are really similar. Then we probably want, well, I at least want to leave them the same color, so you can see they're kind of like one unit. And then I could highlight the rest of the data, since they did work the exact same number, and I can just copy it down. There we go. And really it's very similar when we want to add a column. We can click on here, we could click anywhere in here, and we can say insert. There we go. And for that one I could go with the left or the right. Let's see how we did it over here. It looks like kind of a combination. Looks like, well, over here if we want it to look pink, since it is kind of more related to these other cells, it doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Just know how to do that. And then we're going to call that spark chart, and we'll go back and learn about that later in the insert tab. Now, there are other ways to really get the same thing accomplished. So instead, if I do a bunch of undoing and get rid of all these changes, what if I instead go to insert and insert cells? Now I can do this, but I can do the same thing that I've done or have more options. So if I instead I've clicked on A13 or E13 or anything in row 13, if I just say insert cells, I can actually just shift the entire row down, and that's going to do the exact same thing as inserting a row. However, there are some more, I guess you could say, diverse options here. So if I go to insert and when I do insert cells, what if I just wanted to just add one new cell here as A13 and just push these 4 people down? In this case, it doesn't really make sense because I have this whole table, but let me just show you what it does. So you can shift cells down, And there you go. So you have pushed these 4 down. You can shift cells to the right as well. So you can go to Insert, shift cells to the right, and watch what happens. Boom. They're all these from here to here were all pushed over 1. And I'm going to Control Z to undo that as well. So that's really the gist of inserting. And you can also insert a sheet, and that just right after your or right before your current sheet, you can, let me show you again, insert sheet, and it just pops it in right before where you were. Okay, and now I'm going to delete these, and there's more than one way to delete them. I can right click on them, okay, so just to get rid of these blank ones, I don't want them there. So I could right click and delete, or I can use these options up here. I can say delete sheet, and delete sheet, okay. If I have inserted additional rows, and maybe I put one too many, or I just don't want this one, or someone got fired and I don't want them on the sheet anymore, I just click on the row and delete rows. Okay, so that's really identical to insert, except it's backwards, of course. Cool, so let's move on to format. And with format, we're going to click in here. Once again, you want to click on the cell that you want to change before you get started. So I'm going to just go to F13, doesn't really matter, but we'll see what these changes do. So if I change the row height, of course it will change the height of the entire row 13 and not just that cell. So I could bump it up to, I didn't change it. Let me go back. 23. Okay, and you can see it got a little taller. Control Z will undo that. Now let's look at the width. I can go to width. Okay, I can bump that up. There we go. And other ways to change height and width are available. You can instead click on the boundary between any 2 columns right here, and it has to be in this gray area where the row and column names are shown, and you just scroll. Once you've clicked, you really just click and drag, and you see 2 different measurements of the width, and the second one's in pixels, and it moves in increments of whole numbers for the number of pixels, and there you go. And then also up and down, you can move things around. Now, you can change more than one cell at a time with this method. So I could highlight from 8 to 17, and I could go to column width. I'm sorry, I would want to change the height, wouldn't I? The row height. And I could say, hey, make all these 22. And now they're all equal. There they are. If I hit Control Z, I can also, instead, I can just drag, and they'll all be equal that way. All right. Now, so that's how to do the cell size. You can also do autofit to change it. And let's look at what autofit is. So if I just make some kind of weird changes, I kind of fatten up some of these and then make some of them really small. See how small that one is? Okay, and now I highlight and I say, hey, I want you to auto fit the width. And auto fit, all that does is it really just makes it the perfect width. It makes it the width that is exactly what you need, not more, not less. So that may be a good option for you as well. And there is a way to automatically change to auto width without going up here. There's always more than one way to do something in Excel. So if I've shortened this to really small, I can go right after it and just give it a double click, and it's going to change it to that auto width. So I can go around, let's do this one. Okay. That one's a little larger for whatever reason, but okay, and those are going to be small. And this, notice how with words or strings, it's going to scooch in exactly to where those words end when you double click. So that's AutoFit, and it's pretty helpful. So that's lots of ways you can change the size of your cells. I'm going to make these a little bigger and mess with it until it's to my liking. There we go. Okay, and then you can change the height as well. There we go. Okay, now let's go back to format. Hide and unhide, those are very useful. Let's say I don't want to see this column here because I don't care how many cups I sold. I can click anywhere within it. I can go to format, hide and unhide, hide columns, and B is just gone. It's not gone, but I can't see it. I could do any other ones. I can do more than one at a time. So I can click in multiple cells. Let me click in this cell, and I'm going to hold down Control, okay, and this one here. Okay, so I've selected 3 columns, and hide columns will hide all of them. Great, so I have a shortened table to only see the information that I wanted to see, but how do I retrieve that information? How do I bring it back? Well, that's easy. You just unhide. Now, the thing is, to unhide, you're going to have to highlight the areas that contain your hidden information. So if I highlight A to C, and I click on unhide columns, only B is going to pop back. If I wanted to bring back the missing Thursday column, then I would have to highlight at least, between E and G, between Wednesday and Thursday, or I could highlight more than that as long as it's contained in there. Let's just bring back all of our things at once. So unhide columns. Okay. And if you have been observant, you'll notice I had this row was previously hidden, but that also came back. This one, 16 with Renee, and it just kind of popped in there. It was hidden before, but now it's not. All right. Other things you can hide are sheets. You can just hide the whole sheet, and to bring it back, you just have to go to unhide sheet, and then you just tell it to bring back the sheet. It's not quite the same as unhiding a column, and then you might have to move it around if it's not in the right order that you left it. Okay. Now, other things you can do include organizing these sheets. So we've been kind of focused on columns, cells, things within a worksheet, but you need to organize your worksheets down here as well, and there's more than one way to do that. For example, with renaming, you can either double-click and start typing, or you just go to Format, Rename Sheet, and it does the same thing, and you can type whatever if you wanted the sheet to be named Bob. There you go. Now, you can also move sheets and copy them. So with this method, let's say we wanted to move this sheet, which I renamed Bob just because it was short. If I want to move it to anywhere else within this book, this workbook, so this document, I just click on the one that I want it to go before. So watch, if I click here, we're going to see this sheet pop up right before prizes. Okay, and there it goes. Now the other way to move something is to click and drag. Okay, so I've dragged it back to where it was. And another thing I can do is actually copy. So this time I just need to check it off if I want to copy, and then I can still go around saying, hey, put it before this sheet or after this or before this one. Or move it to the end. And then when I click OK, it'll be a copy of it instead. Additionally, I can move around to any workbook that's open. So if I want to create a copy in a different workbook, if I don't have any other ones open, which I don't right now, I can just say, let's pop this in a whole new book. Let me click OK, and it'll take a second. And look at this. We have a brand new document with just this in it. So that's how you do that. Okay. Lastly for organization, you are going to maybe at times want to change the color of the tabs. So you do that right here. And you can't really see it when your sheet is selected. So you have to click away and you really notice it, like, wow, it's red. Now, another thing you can do is you don't have to highlight just or work with just one sheet at once. You can select using our little trick where we either use Control or Shift. So I'm going to, maybe I want every other worksheet tab to be red, so I can use my Control keyboard shortcut to select every other sheet. So I'm going to grab this one, hold down Control and click this, and this, and then I can go to tab color red. All right, and there we see that nice red pop up. Okay, and really that's it for the organizing of sheets. Now let's move on to protection. Protection is going to prevent you from making changes to a sheet. So if you have something, you've worked really hard on it, you want to send it, maybe you have like a customer that you've done some spreadsheets for, you're trying to show him or her your work, but you don't want them to be able to tinker with it or really have to tinker with it at all. You just want it to be maybe kind of a read-only thing. Well, let's go to this, back to format, and notice the cell is locked currently. But what's funny is, let's try to type over this. So I'm going to type 6, and that locking doesn't seem to be doing much good, does it? That's kind of odd. Well, the reason is that the locking doesn't work unless your whole sheet is protected. So if I don't want to be able to change anything in here, I go to Protect Sheet. And I can tell this, I can tell Excel exactly what I want that protection to mean. For example, do I want people to only be able to select locked cells or select unlocked cells, or do I not even want them to be able to select? Let's do that. Let's make people unable to select unless they have a password. So you can password protect it. You cannot password protect it. It's up to you. I'm going to click OK. Okay, and you just have to re-enter. And now notice I'm clicking. I can't even select anything in here. It's not that my mouse isn't working. It's that I caused this to happen. Nothing's going to work. Notice my hyperlink on this box, that still works. Okay, so things like hyperlinks will work, but I can't do any actual editing. The only way to do so is to unprotect the sheet. I have to give it the password, and now everything's back to normal. Now, what if I had said, okay, for whatever reason, I want you to be able to edit this column even when it's locked. So to do that, you just go to lock cell. It didn't like it because of this merged cell up here. So let me just highlight these few guys right here, these few cells, and I'm going to say, all right, let's unlock those. Nothing changed as of now. The only difference is when I protect the sheet, and I'm going to add back some functions. I'm going to say, well, I'll allow you to select. Just none of this other editing. Okay. So no big change. Okay, and now I have to, okay, so my sheet's protected. And so watch, if I try to change this day, it's going to give me an error message and say, you can't do that. But what about Sunday? Oh, look, no problem there. Okay, so that's what locking and unlocking your cell does. It only has any effect if the sheet is protected. If not, you won't be able to tell the difference. Now, let me go back and unprotect the sheet, and we're back to kind of how we were before. And the only other thing in here is format cells. Okay, and that just brings up something we've seen lots of times before from our other dialog box launchers. So this should look familiar from right here. And we can access any other component. So protection, fill, border, we've seen all these all in the Home tab in various sections. All right, so that is it for format. That was a long one, but you made it through. Great, now let's finish off with editing, and we'll be done with the Home tab. The first option is auto sum in the editing group. So there's a default click button, and then there's a drop down So let's see what the default button does. So I'm going to click on, for me it's G18, just right under, at the end of Friday. And what do you think AutoSum's going to do? Well, AutoSum, it's going to, it didn't quite do what I wanted, but the idea is that it is going to get the sum of the things above it. Now, why did it not quite know what I wanted? Why did it only give me the 2.5, which is obviously not what I wanted? Well, here's how it works. Excel's going to say, all right, so you're in G18. Well, I'm just going to kind of look at whatever's directly above G18. So it's going to go to G17. And it's going to stop whenever it reaches a blank. Well, this cell's blank, so that's why it stopped. It only included G17. But let's do something different. What if we go instead to J18 and click AutoSum? Now it knows you wanted all these days because there's something in every one of these cells, and it only stops when it reaches this box. And though it does contain, it does have contents, they're not numerical contents. What is this? This is a word, which in Excel we call a string. And it can't add a string to a number. That doesn't work out very well. So it just knows to stop there, which is perfect. This is how many hours total were worked this week. And so once I've clicked enter, or once I've hit enter after clicking AutoSum, I get that sum there. Perfect. That's just what I needed. But what about over here where it didn't work? Are we doomed to not be able to use the AutoSum? Absolutely not. You just have to do a little tinkering. So if you really wanted the sum to be right here, and you click AutoSum, and it gives you something you didn't want, it's telling you, look, I'm taking the sum of G17. Well, we want the sum of G17 all the way back to G9. So you just have to click and drag, and there it is. That's it. Once you've got what you want, and you see these, I call them little marching ants all the way around, you hit enter, and there it is. There's the total for that day. That's it. So you can just go around and do some practicing. Okay, this is almost what we want. I'm just going to go grab all of them. Okay, and it's as simple as that. Now, do you have to just do a sum? Absolutely not. I'm going to go back to G18, delete what's there. Okay, the formatting's going to stay. But what if I want the average? I can do that. I can find what's the average number of hours worked. I clicked on my hyperlink. That was not smart. What else can I do? I can count the numbers. And count numbers, that's going to seem a little weird. But count numbers is how many of these have numbers in them. It does what it says. It counts the numbers. So let's go to I18 and just see how that works. Highlight all these. And I get 4. And what that's telling me is that only 4 people worked that day. There's 4 numbers here. If we go to, let's try out another one just to check that it works. Okay, highlight what you want. Okay, so 6 people worked that day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, it worked. And other things you can do are maximum and minimum. Okay, so what's the highest that day and the lowest that day? So if we click here, and we delete what we currently have, and we want to add a maximum instead. Oop, that's not what I want. What is it going to say? It should say 5. That's the largest. And it worked. There's plenty of other functions you can do as well. So you can go back to AutoSum, go to More Functions, and this is going to bring up something called, well, it's part of the Formula Wizard. And it's going to ask you, what are the arguments of this function? But let me do something different. Let me delete this altogether. And now let me click on More Functions. Aha, this is the real Formula Wizard. So this is if you want to go and look for more functions. So rather than min, max, count, sum, or average, you can go and get all sorts of things. And you can search. So maybe you're doing some stuff that's way more complicated with statistics. So maybe you're finding something like the mode, and you can search for that using this. And you can then hit go, and it'll say, hey, I have a few functions that you might be looking for. And then you can double click, and those are going to be available to you. Now, we don't want to get too much into this because we'll look at that later in formulas, but just know that this is all there. But for this tab, you only need to understand how to do these basics. The other options that are available to you here are fill, and fill is kind of odd. Fill is going to be if you want this cell here to say what's in the cell above it. So if I want I-10 to say what's in I-9, then I'm actually going to fill down. And why fill down? Well, I'm filling down from I-9 to I-10. And I can fill in all sorts of directions. So if I want to copy this 4 to here for some reason, I would have to copy left. And if I wanted to copy it here, I would copy down. Okay, and you don't have to just copy numbers. It could be strings. So I could copy down the word bonus. Not that I would want to do that. I can copy formulas, like what we've been working with, like we have in this column here. I know we haven't completely understood them yet, but you can copy them. That's possible. And that's what fill allows you to do. You can also do a series. So if I type Jan, and then I go here and write. Okay, it's supposed to say Feb. Let's see if it works. Series. Okay, and it's going to want to know step value. So I'm going to keep going with 1. Watch what happens. Oh no, it didn't do anything. If you really want to copy the if you want to copy a series, that your best bet is to highlight it and then use this autofill handle. Okay, and that's how you can create a series. Okay, and let me delete all this stuff. All right. The last option we have here is, or in this little stack right here, is clear. And you can clear, like if I type the word yes for bonus, I can clear just the contents. Or I can actually clear everything, which gets rid of the formatting as well. Okay, let me undo that. So that's clear. It can be very useful. You can clear out large areas at a time. Okay, I could do clear formatting, and it goes back to just the most basic, having no formatting, no fill, no no outline, any of that stuff, no alignment changes. So that's how to clear things, but I'm going to undo my choices there. Now, what about sort and filter? Well, you can sort, if you've clicked anywhere, you can sort based on the row, or it'll try to predict which you would like to sort on, and that's usually going to be up and down. So watch, if I sort smallest to largest, it's not liking that my cells, that they're not identical in size. Let's see if we go here, sort and filter. Yeah, it is not liking that. Let me copy this information. Let's just copy and paste it down here. I'll just paste it in this blank area. All right. So let's do this now. Smallest to largest. Okay, it sorted it based on this row. What if I want to do based on people's names? Well, I can do A to Z, okay, or Z to A. Or I can make a custom sort, where I have more than one level going. So I can say sort by, I didn't get the names of these columns, did I? Let's go get the names. Going to put just the values there. There we go. Okay. Sort and filter, custom sort, and it picked up like, hey, these are the employees. This is the Monday hours. So let's do this. Let's add a second employee named Lauren. So I'm going to insert second Lauren, and she only sold 55 cups. Okay, so let's see, and then let's add another, insert another Michael. He sold 77. Okay, so let's kind of scramble these up. So let's sort them just by how many, I don't know, how many hours they worked on Friday. Okay, so the names are fairly scrambled, right? And now I want to sort them, but let's do this. Sort. So sort A to Z. Got to click in the name, sort A to Z. Okay, so they're sorted, but how does it know which Lauren to do first and which to do second? It really doesn't. And the way it's going to deal with it is whoever was first previously, that's who's first now. But you could sort them. Maybe you could say custom sort, and you could say, all right, well, first I want to sort them by employees, but then secondly, I want to sort them by how many cups they sold. And you'll notice the Laurens then would be backwards. Well, we can fix that. So let's add a level. And secondly, we want to go smallest to largest on cups sold. And there you go. It flipped the two Laurens, so now they're in a certain order based on smallest to largest. So that's just adding levels to your sorting and filtering. Now you can also do filtering, which is where you you can filter out. You can say, all right, filter by color. You could do that. You could sort by color, smallest to largest. But this is very useful. You could do number filters, and you could say anybody who's between, I want to filter out anyone who's between 100, 200. Okay, so let's do that. Ooh, and that apparently didn't work very well. Why is that? Let me take that filter off. Because I put them backwards. That wouldn't make any sense. Okay. All right, so now I only see the people who are between 100 and 200, but I can always go back and just take off that filter, or just change. I can get rid of these. Okay. And then just select all, and just add everybody back. There are other filters as well. I could say, I only want to see the people who are above average, and there we are. And then just cancel. Just bring back everybody and say OK. All right, so that's filters. You can filter things with strings in them by saying begins with or ends with or contains. So maybe anybody who has, I don't know, I need to get rid of people who have a CH in their name. So CH. So that should get rid of Christina and the two Michaels. And I don't know why you would want to do this, but just because. I'm sorry, I got rid of everyone who didn't have a CH. And you can do the opposite as well. Okay, so that's contains or does not contain. And so these things tell you who you're keeping in rather than who you're booting out. Okay, and you can always select all to bring back everybody, or you can just be picky and say, well, I don't like her and him. It's completely up to you. And that's sort and filter. Now, very last section here is find and select. And find and select can be very useful, of course, in finding. So, I can look for anything that has the word Tina in it, or the part of the name Tina, and there we go. And then if I find next, it's going to jump over. And it might be kind of hard to see where your cursor is. It's not going to, it will highlight it as we saw in Word. It's the same type of function, but it's harder to see in Excel when you have lots of colors and whatnot. You can look for example, 3, and then it's going to highlight, every time you have a 3, And other options you have, you can change the scope of your search. Where are you searching, the sheet or the book? If you're going to search by row or by column, so by row would mean, it's going to move side to side first, and then up and down, or you can go the opposite direction. And then you can also, you can access you can search within the formulas, or just values, or just comments. So that's a useful thing for you. Replace is going to really do the same thing, but then it replaces it. So if every time you saw, let's do this. Let me not highlight this. Let's do this. Maybe I spelled Michael wrong, and I can say, all right, well, instead of M-I-C-H-A-E-L, maybe he spells it with some alternate spelling. I'm not really sure. Like maybe it was actually Michelle with this weird spelling. You can find, and then you can say, oh, replace, and then find and replace, or you can just replace all. Okay, the next thing you can do over here is go to, and go to is just what it says. It just allows you to jump. You can jump to special names that you've created within your workbook. So if I want to go to this one called autofill instructions, double click, and it brings me to that, and it's in a different sheet, so don't let that alarm you. Additionally, go to special is going to allow you to search for certain things. So if I want to just go to formulas, I'm going to click OK. It's going to highlight every time I have a formula, every single formula that I have in a cell. And so that's a lot of highlighting. You remember these that we just created? Those are included. Those are formulas. Another one might be that I want to get all constants. That's a big category. Let's see what happens. Oh, sorry. Constants, okay. So just make sure you aren't highlighting anything before you use GoTo or GoTo Special. And these are all constants. So notice what I have. Text strings and numbers are counted in constants. Just to help illustrate, let me make everything that's selected orange. So those are all my constants, all those things there. Notice that blanks are not included. That's something important. If you, let me undo this. If you wanted to search just, or you wanted to select all of your blanks, then you go here and you say, hey, I want to select all my blanks. It's going to take a while because there's a lot of them, and you can make all those orange. Okay, so there they are. All right. Okay, other things you can search for. You can say search for all formulas. You can do select all conditional formatting, all constants. So these are really go-tos, but without having to click on go-to. We've seen conditional formatting before. If you're not sure what that is, watch the home part 1 or part 2. Data validation. That is when you go to the data tab and you're going to use this to say, hey, in this cell, I only want to allow values that are between this and this, or I only want to allow words or strings. That's data validation. So just so you know what that is, though we haven't learned it yet. And if you click on this, you're going to find every cell in here that has data validation, even if you don't know what that means. Okay, and then lastly, the selection, don't worry about select objects, but selection pane will allow you to select things that are on your worksheet in front of you. So there we go. And then we can jump over to other different worksheets, and some don't have anything on them. And this one has 2 things, so I can help myself by clicking here, maybe instead of clicking on them and having to search for them instead. And you can even just change the visibility so that they're either on or off with this little toggle here. Okay, And sign and encrypt. We can sign the document here, but we can also, we've seen how you can do that by going to the Backstage view and doing add a digital signature, which is really all you need to concern yourself with. And then you can go ahead and click OK. And you do have to save before you can do that. So just save, and then that's how you add a signature. And that is it for the Home tab. If you've watched the other two videos, then you should really know how to do everything within this tab, which is a great amount of stuff, which is why it was split into 3 different videos. Thank you for watching, and check out the other videos on Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. And that's it.